Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are exploring a subtle but really profound influence on our lives, our cognitive biases. These are the sort of mental patterns that quietly shape our decisions in the background. They shape our decisions, our perceptions, they shape the way that we experience reality. And understanding them isn't just academic. I'm going to be talking a lot about psychology today, but we also need to gain insight into what we can practically do about these. And that's what this video is about. In this video, we're going to be looking at some of the most pervasive cognitive biases, the ones that really can shake our lives up, the ones that lie just beneath our conscious awareness. And we'll discuss how these manifest in our daily lives, how they can shape our relationships, how they can shape our work. And toward the end, I'm going to introduce a really significant cognitive bias, one that we don't speak about nearly as widely as some of the others, because it's something that most of us encounter every day without even noticing. So if you're interested in this type of stuff, in the workings of the mind and how we can better understand how the mind works, make sure that you click that like and subscribe button. And that's going to connect you with this bigger community that's dedicated to understanding these patterns and learning from these patterns in order to navigate them more effectively. So let's begin then with the first cognitive bias. And this is probably the most famous one. It's called confirmation bias. This is the tendency we have to seek and interpret and remember information that confirms what we already believe. So we look for things that confirm what we believe. And crucially, we also dismiss stuff that doesn't agree with what we already believe. So, we can think about this in terms of the media that we consume, the articles that we read, the podcasts, the social media feeds, and how all of these can really reinforce our pre existing views. Our mind likes that because it is energetically easier to just have the same view or the same idea about something than to change our idea. And the danger here is really, really important because over time, if we allow these biases to carry on unchecked, they limit our capacity for real, nuanced thinking. So, what do we do about this then? Well, recognition that it is happening is the very first step. Noticing when we are selectively interpreting information and asking ourselves whether we're really engaging with reality or if we're just engaging with a version of reality that our mind prefers to see. The second cognitive bias is related to this. It's called anchoring bias. Anchoring bias is the outsized influence that the first piece of information that we encounter has on shaping everything else that we understand about it. So the first impression of someone, the initial evaluation of a situation, early feedback that we receive on a project. These early pieces of information that we gain become anchors, and they can really shape our view of that person or thing or situation. So I'm not saying here that our first impressions are always wrong or that initial evaluations are always incomplete or incorrect. What I'm saying, however, is that we need to allow ourselves the time to fully process and analyze. And more importantly, the time to change our opinions if we need to. By being aware of the anchoring bias, we can invite ourselves to take that moment to pause, to question our initial reference points, and evaluate the situation, the thing, or the person a little bit more independently rather than just remaining unconsciously tied to that first impression or that initial anchor. Do you see what's happening with these confirmation biases? They are shortcuts for the brain. The brain wants to do things quickly and easily and conveniently. And it has these tools for doing that. But as we're seeing, these tools don't always help us see reality as it actually is. And sometimes, as we've seen with confirmation bias and anchoring bias, they can actually begin to hinder our growth and development. And I'd love to hear from you about this. These are really, really popular, commonly spoken about cognitive biases. Have you noticed anchoring bias coming up before? Have you noticed confirmation bias coming up before for you? Pop your comments below. I'd really, really love to see your reflections on this. And remember, they become a little bit more mysterious as we go on. We're sort of starting from the most well-known to the least well-known as we go along. Our third confirmation, or our third bias that we're looking at today, is something called availability heuristic. Okay, so this maybe isn't as widely spoken about as some of the others. The availability heuristic is the tendency to assess the likelihood of events based on how easily examples come to mind. So let's think about this. If you have recently read a news story about a plane crash or a train accident or a big traffic accident on a highway, the risk of travel might feel greater than it actually is. So we know that flying on airplanes is actually a really safe mode of transportation. But with the availability heuristic, if we have just read about a plane crash, it is suddenly going to feel more dangerous. Another example, if you recall friends who succeed really quickly at things, or they get ahead in their career, they've really achieved something really swiftly, it might skew your perception on how likely your success is going to be, or how quick supposed success actually takes. And this bias, this tendency to evaluate situations based on the most recent information that we've received, really drives our fears, but it also drives our expectations for ourselves and others. And it also drives our memory of the past. This is how we reconstruct the past in sometimes limiting or oppressive ways. And the trick here is to begin with awareness, noticing when this is happening and beginning to distinguish between what is memorable, so what immediately comes to mind, and what is actually significant or representative. And when we are making decisions, when we are evaluating, when we are considering options and outcomes, considering a broader range of evidence, because that is going to serve us much, much better. Our next category we're going to look at is sunk cost fallacy. This leads us to really persistent commitments to things because we have previously invested in them. So if we have put time or money or effort into something, the sunk cost fallacy is that the part of our brain that's saying we need to keep putting time, money, or effort into it because we've already put all of that into it. We've already sunk all of that cost in it. So consider a project at work that might clearly not be working, or a subscription to something that you never use, or a relationship that is maybe becoming draining on you. Our mind clings to our past effort as a form of justification, and it creates that subtle compulsion to continue. Recognizing that bias is really liberating. It allows us to make a decision about whether to stop doing something or to start doing something differently based on the data that we have right now, rather than our belief that we've already put so much time and attention into something that, we may as well keep going for it. Now, this last one that I want to talk about, negativity bias. I don't think we realize how much this shapes our view of the world outside and our view of ourselves. Our negativity bias is the mind's tendency to give more weight to negative experiences than to positive experiences. So if you have ever had a single critical comment in maybe a, sort of a long positive annual appraisal, maybe it's that one single negative comment that has really stuck in your mind, that has really stood out. A single piece of negative input can linger because our mind judges it as more important. But awareness of this bias allows us to begin to consciously notice and remember positive events as well, to remember constructive feedback that we received and the achievements and progress that we have made. And by doing this, by resisting that negativity bias, by reaffirming the positivity that's around us all the time, we are gradually reshaping how we experience our lives and how we engage with the world. Our minds are endlessly fascinating and they like to play tricks on us, but we also know now that we don't have to be held hostage by our ego, by that part of our brain. We can begin to become more conscious about all of these tricks that our mind is playing on us. If this is the type of stuff that really gets you going, really excites you, I'll pop some links in the show notes below that you can learn more about this and see ways you can continue to develop further. Also, you are welcome to carry on this conversation in the comments below where I read and respond to everything. Let me know how these biases are impacting your life and how you are working on noticing them, acknowledging them, and finally overcoming them. I'll see you next time.